North Korea, Kim Jong-un, would like to meet with President Trump? No, this doesn't happen. You know, they're saying, oh, well, Obama could have done that. Trust me, he couldn't have done that. He wouldn't have done that. He would not have done it. And by the way, neither would Bush and neither would Clinton. And they had their shot, and all they did was nothing.
Well, President Trump continuing to boast about his surprise decision to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The president is breaking with decades of conventional foreign policy protocol, accepting a face-to-face meeting with the head of the reclusive regime, which would be the first for a sitting U.S. president, as he pointed out there. But some experts say President Trump is giving Kim exactly what he wants, recognition as an equal. Well, joining me now is retired four-star General MSNBC military analyst Barry McCaffrey. General McCaffrey, great to have you with us. And there's so much we don't know at this point. I think you'll agree with that. What constitutes a success? If this meeting were to take place, what would a successful meeting look like between these two leaders?
Well, I think, first of all, David, it's better to talk to them clearly than threaten them with nuclear attack, which he essentially did in front of the United Nations. We have two objectives that we care about. Number one is we don't want them to be a nuclear power with ICBMs aimed at the United States. Number two, we'd like to see the human rights situation in North Korea go from this despotic, brutalized, enslaved population. It sounds highly unlikely, impossible to believe that we will achieve either of those two purposes by face-to-face talk with Kim Jong-un, who I think has gotten a sense of legitimacy and recognition he's a nuclear power by the meeting. I probably don't think there's as much downside to this as many people do. They are a nuclear power. They've blown thermonuclear devices. They've tested ICBMs. But I don't think this is going to achieve anything. And the meeting, if it occurs, is likely to not produce anything but economic relief for the North Koreans.
How worried are you about the proper groundwork being laid ahead of this meeting? I saw a quote from former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in a Dutch newspaper. Let me just read a quote from that. If you want to talk to Kim Jong-un about his nuclear weapons, you need experienced diplomats. You cannot have diplomacy without diplomats. The danger is not being recognized by the Trump government. At this point, there is no U.S. ambassador to South Korea. The point person for North Korea at the State Department just left his position. How worried are you about the proper staffing apparatus being there to lead the way to this meeting that the president has promised to have?
Well, clearly the State Department under Secretary Tillerson has been largely gutted and has become, I think, almost irrelevant in foreign diplomacy. It's either coming out of the White House or out of the Department of Defense. Dr. Victor Cha, who should have been our ambassador to South Korea, brilliant academic, withdrew his own nomination because he couldn't gain any sense of trust in the White House. So I think it's a problem. Now, having said that, look, there's lots of smart career diplomats, to include the acting ambassador, chief of mission in South Korea. The Pentagon, the CIA, all have people that do understand the issue. The problem going to be, is President Trump going to listen to any of them? Will he read the briefing books? He has no expertise, no experience in this area, and he's had a bad track record now of listening to people that know what they're talking about.
I asked you at the top what would constitute a success from this meeting. Let me ask you about the consequences of failure. If you have the President of the United States meeting with the leader of North Korea and it doesn't go well, it doesn't lead to anything, what does that mean for next steps? I imagine there aren't many diplomatic steps that follow a presidential meeting like that.
Well, I think it'd be an embarrassment to President Trump, and he doesn't take embarrassment very well. I also think there's some danger of the president saying, look, I tried peace, it didn't work, and so now the next option on the table is a so-called bloody nose strike on North Korea or some conventional attack. I actually don't think that's going to happen, but I would be concerned about it. You basically got the president acting as Lone Ranger on this, and Kim Jong-un, undeviatingly, what he's trying to do is lift economic constraints, unify the peninsula under North Korean control, be recognized and accepted as a nuclear power, which I think he's going to do, and then finally get the U.S. military forces out of South Korea. So he's undeviating in his own objectives, and what we'll get at best is false promises of a nuclear freeze.
Always good to get your perspective. Thank you very much. General Barry McCaffrey joining me from Seattle this afternoon.
Good to be with you.